The executive that makes everyone listen is almost never the best speaker in the room. They just do one surprising thing every time they speak that nobody else does. In this video, I'll show you what that one thing is and how top executives use it so people follow your leadership and your name is equal to great leadership, which of course leads to more opportunities for you. Years ago, British CEO Gerald Ratner was told before a big speech to be funny. You're good at being funny. You should be funny in this speech. So he stood on stage and joked that his own products were total crap. It got a big laugh from the room, but within days, hundreds of millions of dollars were wiped off his company's value, and his career was over. Why? Because someone told him to be funny, and he was, but it wasn't in context. Communication isn't something you bolt on last minute. Humor isn't. Presence isn't, and storytelling especially isn't. Here's what executives actually do. They take people somewhere. Picture it like going to the top of a mountain. It might be a company or a team or a project or a culture. To get there, they have to constantly answer the same questions. Why this matters, why now, how we get there, what obstacles mean, and why we can still win, and what role each person plays. Now that's storytelling, not a TEDx talk flourish, not a random anecdote dropped inside of a slide deck, not a be a better social media influencer technique, but a way of leading. I'm gonna explain to you how to think about storytelling like a leader so you can perform this vital function of leadership. Because storytelling isn't a tool and it's not optional. It's how you get people to follow you to the top of the mountain. Here's what most executives get wrong. They communicate almost entirely about the moment, this quarter, this deadline, the missed target, this week's urgency. They're constantly talking about the weather on the mountain, the storm today, the loose rocks here, the route change this afternoon. And those things matter. But if all people hear is weather updates, something dangerous happens. They lose sight of why they're climbing it all. They start to feel like they're suffering for no reason, working hard with no clear sense of where any of this is going. So what do many executives do next? They panic and they drop in a motivational story, something about grit, some athlete who never quit, a winner who pushed through all the odds. But if it doesn't connect to the mountain you're climbing, it lands wrong. It feels forced, sometimes even insulting, because people are sitting there thinking, well, that was nice, but what does this have to do with us? This is why smart executives can speak constantly, share stories, hold meetings, send updates, and still fail to create true followership, even if they have the title. Because they're describing moments, but not the mission. And once you understand that, you understand what the best executives do differently every single week. The executives people listen to do something very different. They don't let every conversation get trapped in the moment. They keep bringing people back to the mountain, to the journey, back to where they're going, why it matters, and what this week actually means in the bigger picture. A missed target becomes, this shows us what we need to strengthen if we want to win in the market. A delay becomes, we'd rather lose a month than lose trust. A hard quarter becomes, this is the price of building something worth having. The difference is interpretation. Average executives describe what happened. The best ones tell people what it all means. They help people see the present through the lens of the larger mission, and that changes everything. Because when people can see how today connects to tomorrow, they stay engaged longer, they handle pressure better, and they move with belief. This is why some executives seem calming in chaos. They're not calmer because life is easier for them. They're calmer because they know how to frame reality. And once you see that, the obvious question becomes, what are the main stories that leaders need to keep telling if they want people to follow them? In my experience, there are three main stories. And if you don't know these three stories, people may comply for a while, but real followership becomes very difficult. Story one is your story. You need to know your own story, who you are, why you lead, the way you lead, and what actually shaped you into this person before us, what you believe and why you're here. You won't be telling this story every day and in every circumstance, but there will be moments where people need to understand the person behind the title. There'll be a crisis or a major change, a skeptical room, a new team member that doesn't trust you yet. And if you can't explain who you are in a real and believable and credible way, all that credibility starts to leak. Most executives know their resume, but they don't know their story. And learning how to tell your own story is also how you learn how storytelling works. Story 2 is the mountaintop story. This is the mission story. The story of where you're going and why the mission matters, why this company exists, why the work is worth the climb, and why now is the moment to do it. You need to know this so clearly in a meeting so that under pressure and without notes, you could speak to that same narrative. Because if the story changes every week, trust drops fast. It feels vague or corporate or lifeless. And when belief drops, so does action. And one more thing here. When you tell the mission story, people need to see themselves inside it. They need to think, I get it, and I matter in this. I know where I fit. That is when people start climbing willingly. Story 3 is the situational story. This is a story of the moment in front of you, the missed quarter, the new competitor, the unexpected setback, the tough season you didn't plan for. How do we interpret this? What does it mean, and how do we respond? But here is where many executives make a mistake. They start here. They only talk about the moment. Strong executives don't. They connect the moment back to identity and mission first, who we are, where we're going, why this matters. And then they explain the situation. And that order really matters because when people know the bigger story, they can handle the smaller problem. When you truly know these 3 stories, something changes. You stop sounding like you copied phrases from a corporate leadership book, or like legal handed you a statement and told you not to improvise. You start sounding like someone who actually believes in what they're saying, someone who understands the moment, someone worth following. And that matters more than people realize because teams can feel borrowed language. They can feel fake energy. And when they feel like someone is trying to do communication instead of actually leading, well, things don't go well. The good news is figuring out these 3 stories isn't complicated, but it does take intention. Sit down and think your way through your own story first. Who you are, why you lead the way you lead, and what shape you. Then think through your organization's story, why it exists, where it's going, and why it matters. Once you have those 2, the situational story becomes way easier to deal with because now you're not reacting blindly to every storm. You know what mountain you're climbing. You can do all that work on your own. Or you could have someone like me help you build it, pressure test it, and learn how to communicate it in a way that real people actually relate to. Because different groups hear stories different generations, for example, or different teams. For example, Generation Z in particular often interprets leadership communication in ways that catch older leaders off guard. In fact, I made a video about this exact idea. Watch it here next.